Winston Churchill, Never Give Up, written by David L. Dreer. Focus question: what made Winston Churchill a strong leader? Words to know: ambitious, aristocratic, depressions, empire, Nobel Prize, parliament, politics, prime minister, rally, toil, undaunt, wit. Tables of content: 1 goal only, victory, 4. Young Winston, 5. Soaring energy, deep despair, sharp wit, 7. In services to the government, 8. Written beside, 11. Victory at last but at great cost, 13. Final years, 14. Glossary, 16. 1 goal only, victory. On October 1941, Great Britain's Prime Minister Winston Churchill spoke at Harrow, the school he had gone as a boy. The nation was facing dark time. World War II was being fought, and Germany has conquered most of Western Europe. Britain stood alone against the power of Germany. Despite the danger to his country, Churchill was undaunted. For him, he could be just on goal for Britain, victory, whatever it cost. No matter how desperate the situation, Churchill told his listeners, never give up. Never, never, never. Churchill lived in those words throughout his life, to his political opponents, or to his own personal challenges. Young Winston. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was born on November 30, 1874, at the family estate near Oxford, England. He was born in an aristocratic family with a long history of government and military services. Winston's father, Randolph Churchill, was well known for a figure of conservative politics. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American. In 1899, after leaving the army, Churchill became a writer on the London Morning Post newspaper. He went to South America to report the Boer War, a rebellion against British rule by descendants of Dutch settlers called Boers. Soon after he arrived, Boer soldiers ambushed the armored train carrying Churchill and more 100 British troops. The Boers captured and imprisoned Churchill and several dozen British soldiers. Churchill refused to give up. On a December night, he slipped over a prison wall, evaded capturing for 9 days, and fled to freedom. Churchill returned home in 19,000, a British national hero. Soaring energy, deep despair, sharp wit. Churchill could only write very quickly when he was inspired. He was often able to work with great energy. Over his lifetime, he wrote 43 books. In his 40s, Churchill developed another interest, art, and pursued it with equal energy over a period of 48 years. He made more than 500 paintings. However, Churchill's period of creative energy were often followed by terrible depressions, which he called "my black dog." Churchill struggled with his black dog many times throughout his life. When Churchill was not experiencing depression, he had a reputation for wit, and that wit can be biting. He called on his political opponents, Clement Attlee, a modest man with much to be modest about. In service to the government. Churchill was ambitious in his political government shortly after his In 1908, Churchill married a young aristocratic woman, Clementine Hosier. They would have 5 children together. After several important government posts, Churchill was chosen to head the Royal Navy in 1911. During World War I, 1914 to 1918, he pushed for military operation in Turkey. That effort ended a great defeat for Great Britain and its allies, costing Churchill his positions with the Navy. To repair his reputation, Churchill rejoined the army and led troops fighting the Germans in France. 1 year after the war ended, after the war, Churchill continued to serve on and off the parliament, but one prime minister after another denied him high office. They didn't agree with Churchill's thinking about many important issues. Churchill was against India independence from British Empire. He thought India was better off under British rule. He also argued unsuccessfully that Britain should expand its military in the 1930s after Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party came to power in Germany. Churchill's fear he Hitler strengthened Germany's military and formed an alliance with Italy and Japan called the Axis. He made one demand after another for territory in Europe. When Hitler threatened to invade Czechoslovakia in 1938, Britain's Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain flew to Germany. Chamberlain arranged a deal that gave Germany part of Czechoslovakia territory in exchange for peace. Once back in Britain, Chamberlain said he believed he had secured peace for our time. Churchill publicly opposed the deal. In a speech before Parliament, Churchill said to Chamberlain, "You are given the choice between war and dishonor. You chose dishonor, and you will have war." 6 months later, Germany broke the agreement and seized the rest to Czechoslovakia. In September 1939, Germany invaded Poland, igniting World War II. The first month of the war went badly for Britain, leading Chamberlain to resign as Prime Minister. Britain's King George the Sixth named Churchill, who had long argued for military expansion, to replace him in May 10, 1940. In his address to Parliament 3 days later, Churchill warned that the days ahead would be difficult. "I have nothing to offer," he said, "but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." Those serious words soon became reality. Beginning in July and continuing for nearly 4 months, a period known as the Battle of Britain, German planes bombed airfields, factories, ports, and eventually London. Hitler wanted to invade England, but the Royal Air Force, RAF, stood in its way. The German Navy could not invade across England Channel unless the RAF was defeated. The day after, the RAF pilot battled German fighters and bombers in the skies over England. Although RAF suffered terrible losses, Germans were never able to destroy its ability to fight. Hitler had to call off the invasion. Saying to the RAF fighter's pilot on behalf of the nation, Churchill said that never before there was so much owed by so many few. Victory at last, but at great loss. In late 1942, the tide of the war began to turn. In November, the Allies pushed the German army out of France. Meanwhile, the Soviet army fought Germany in the east, and Allied bombers pounded German targets. In 1953, while serving one last time as Prime Minister, Churchill was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature. He was forced to resign from the government in 1955 of his ill health, but he continued writing. In 1958, he completed one of his best-known works, A History of English-Speaking People. It spans 4 volumes and many centuries, from Caesar's invasion of Britain to the start of World War I. In 1963, Churchill became the first person ever to be named an honorary citizen of the United States by acting in Congress. It was one of the final honors. He He died in January 24, 1965 at the age of 90.